Ask me my favorite games, and you'll find the answer to be filled with titles spanning numerous genres and quite a few years between them. Growing up, I was accustomed to playing games like Super Mario Bros. Or Ghosts and Goblins for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Games like Kingdom Hearts and Pokemon helped me fall in love with RPGs, but it was my introduction to first-person shooters that I hold particularly close to my heart. My introduction to shooters came in the form of a game cartridge generously forgotten at my house by a friend, and a request for it back never came. The game in question was GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. Developed by Rare and released in 1997, it's based on the James Bond film of the same name. With a thrilling single-player campaign and set straight out of the movie, it's widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. While the single-player campaign gives quite a bit to players, it's the game's multiplayer that's had people talking for the nearly 2 decades since its release. GoldenEye's multiplayer mode has been described by the game's director and producer Martin Hollis as a complete afterthought, and David Doak, the game's writer, stated that most of the work was done by Steve Ellis, who sat in a room with all the code written for a single-player game and turned GoldenEye into a multiplayer game. I, for one, spent many hours playing the game with friends and hold very fond memories of both the game's single and multiplayer modes. As time goes on, I found less time to go back and play the game, and all the friends I used to play with have moved on. Regardless, I was intrigued when I first heard about GoldenEye Source, a free total conversion mod for the Source engine. The game's development began by Nicholas Bishop in 2005, and while Bishop has passed on, the team has continued to develop the mod to this day, with version 5.0 releasing on August 12th, 2016. With all the coverage and talk I've seen online, I decided now was the time to try it, and I'm glad I did. During the installation, I wondered if the game would be nearly as good as the internet has hyped it up to be. I was worried that the game was going to be a slandering of the GoldenEye property, not unlike the 2010 Wii remake, with Daniel Craig stepping in for Pierce Brosnan. I can now confirm that this is not the case, and the team behind it has reverence and respect for every aspect of the original property. The game features 2 types of levels, those that appeared in the original GoldenEye, albeit in glorious HD, and those that are merely inspired by them. While the HD recreations of classic levels are stunning in and of themselves, it's the modern versions of these levels that really shine. From ambient sounds of machinery throughout to ashtrays, cigarettes, and beer bottles scattered throughout the levels, this is a world that feels more like a living, breathing environment and less of an arena for deathmatch-style combat. All of the original's classic weapons make a return here, from the standard issue PP-7 to the KF-7 Soviet, an AK-47 inspired weapon that served as my favorite gun to use during my numerous playthroughs of the original game. All of the models here are crisp and clean, which is surprising considering the game's relatively low recommended system requirements. Any modern computer should pretty much be able to run it. As far as the game's roster goes, it's quite sizable with plans to add more characters over time. As of now, there's still several characters missing, including both Xenia Onatopp and Natalia Simeonova, but there's also plenty of familiar faces. It wouldn't be GoldenEye without 007 himself, James Bond, as well as Alex Trevelyan, 006 or Hiatus for fans of the film. Boris and General Arumov are also along for the ride, plus miscellaneous scientists and soldiers. The game even has characters like Oddjob and Jaws, who appeared in the original game's multiplayer roster. It's hard to find a bad thing to say about this game, and honestly, I wouldn't want to. It's an incredibly well put together fan project that's still in active development and is definitely worth checking out. I'll leave a link to the ModDB page in the description below. Also, be aware that you'll need to download the 2007 Source engine base to run the game. Until next time, this is Dan, signing off.